more recently, I actually hired my mother to do it.
Okay.
Because she loves like putting things together and making them look nice and stuff. And then I just asked, I just said, "Do you want to do this?" And she was absolutely overjoyed to be part of it. Really.
Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, so we've got Bridget Wood on fulfilment.
That's Jake Wood, and this is the Yoga Life podcast. Hello and welcome back. I hope you had a nice week. Episode 13 already with Jake Wood of So We Flow. So We Flow is a men's clothing company for men who like to move. So it's everything from yoga to rock climbing. Clothing that looks comfortable, is comfortable, and also not too sporty. So you can go out in it, you can do other activities in it, like socialize, for example. I was looking forward to speaking to Jake because we connected a while ago on Instagram, and it's really interesting to see someone who is building a company where they're really trying to use the best quality products in terms of their materials, most ethically sourced, if I can say it, and have real style that moves away from the sporty side of yoga, using natural materials and natural looking colours. So it's quite a fun conversation. We do go deep as always. I can't really help myself. I always start off talking kind of business with my guest, and then going deep, talking about life. But it is called the Yoga Life podcast. So I hope you enjoy this episode. If you do, please give it a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, and that really helps me because the more eyes I have on the podcast, the more I can do this, and I love doing this. I hope you love listening. So enjoy, and here's Jake. So Jake, thanks for joining me.
No problem. Good to be here.
Just for the people that are listening, we were introduced through Joe Pace, who it was on episode 8 of the podcast, and so Joe Pace of Ice Water Yoga, which is an online yoga platform, and Joe got us in touch, which was cool, and I then followed you guys on Instagram. That's what people do these days, don't they? That's basically the first step of business networking, to follow someone on Instagram.
I can't even tell you what Instagram has done for me. I mean, pretty much. I mean, yeah, for example, Joe, he lives over in LA, right? And we literally met through Instagram, and now we're doing a video series together, and we've only ever, it just came through some like pretty pictures on Instagram, so it's a pretty amazing platform in that sense.
Oh man, especially like what you do. Something that's so visual, and the photographs you take are so beautiful, and the color schemes are really nice, and it's so eye-catching that Instagram, I mean, it's a photography platform. I think people forget that sometimes. I find it kind of bizarre when people post up, things that iPhone pictures that are like blurry and this kind of thing. I love Instagram because I actually really like photography. I never did before, but Instagram has given me a new appreciation of it. So in terms of the people listening, just give us a kind of a little intro. Sorry to put you on the spot about So We Flow.
I've done this so many times, I can probably rattle it out. Yeah, so I guess in a nutshell, So We Flow started as a men's yoga clothing brand. And the approach was basically to, I guess, provide something that wasn't sportswear but still had the functionality of sportswear. So more of the aesthetic of like workwear, natural tones, natural materials, and sort of fits and styles that sort of moulded into everyday life better than what the current offering was. I know that I was never into, polyester, sleek black, tight things that would just serve that single purpose. I think a lot of men out there would prefer to have a smaller wardrobe with multi-functional pieces than vast number of clutter and things that are just serving one purpose. And that was kind of one of the reasons that I started it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think that people, I mean, the active, I suppose, the yoga clothing for women has massively taken off because women like to go to yoga class and then go and get a coffee afterwards, but they want to be wearing something that looks good in a yoga class and also looks suitable in a coffee shop as well. And
Yeah, exactly.
if you're wearing like a tracksuit, just a standard sports tracksuit, it doesn't look too nice really. And I think there's a massive need for that for men because I know when I first started doing yoga, I was embarrassed to go to yoga. One, because I thought it was a female pastime, but two, I had nothing to wear. I had football shorts on, an Arsenal jersey, and basically I was wearing a football kit.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the thing that we noticed. Like me and my dad were going to class together, and it was just we were either wearing, not old sports shorts, like just random mash-up tees, like old gym tees, and just a mashup of all sorts of things. Some people would be wearing, some harem pants that they got from the time they went to India. And I guess it's not even about just how you look. It's more of like a feeling, like you want to be comfortable, but then when you're out and about, you want to be comfortable as well, like I found I'm a fairly active person, and I just like my clothing to have kind of like an understated look and have a functional purpose as well, like you never know when movement might strike.
I got to climb something.
Well, yeah, it's true. I think more and more people are living that life where they appreciate, being able to move when they can.
Yeah.
And it's just becoming more and more popular.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think So We Flow, on the face of it, you think of it as a yoga brand, but really it's all movement because you state on your website, you're looking after people that climb, even people after they've done a surf or they're just strolling around, or as it says, like pull-ups in the park. And I think that that's important. But going back to the point about yoga and in that class environment, a lot the yoga is a way to, like any pastime, is a way to socialize as well. So some men that go to yoga class, to state the obvious, there's loads of women there, and they want to look presentable because you never know, they might meet their next, not their next wife, sorry, their future wife. Just collecting wives. No, they might meet their future wife in a yoga class, and I know, as I said, I was so embarrassed because one, I couldn't do any of the moves. Two, the moves to me looked a bit provocative, like cat cow and things like this. And then the third thing was I looked like I was about to go play football. So, and as you said, it's what's interesting. I never thought of this, is the clutter. I've got so many clothes that I never wear. I'd say I wear 5% of my clothes, and but if they had a array of colours, and they of array, is that a word? An array of colours, sorry. An array of colours. A mixed variety and array there together. An array of colours that were like natural looking, I could use them for multiple things, then I wouldn't need all that clutter. So going right back to Joe and Ice Water, what collaboration are you doing there?
So me and Joe just got loosely chatting on Instagram, and we kind of just basically discussed the need, something to introduce men to yoga, and he mentioned his platform and how it was up and coming, and obviously my brand's quite new, and we just felt we'd both wanted to work with someone else, him in someone in my area and me someone producing video content. And I think the initial connection was not only that he had some absolutely incredible teachers on his books, which I'd been following for quite some years anyway, but also just the cooperation between two small businesses in helping two independents grow rather than always jumping towards the mammoth companies. And we basically outlined so there was four male teachers, and we did it's all based on flow basically, just to have a slight loose play on words with the brand, and each one's done 2 flow classes with different focuses, and we're going to be releasing them one every week over August and September.
Okay.
And that's basically all that's out there in the world at the moment. The first one will be released next Thursday, I believe. And they're really incredible. And Joe's platform is fantastic, and his approach is it's kind of a very down to earth, humble approach compared to some of the other let's say slightly controversial things that have happened in this area over the last few years.
What are you referring to?
Oh, I wouldn't want to bring it up.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. All right.
Yeah.
No, but that's funny.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
Does it begin with a B?
No, but you'll have to tell me afterwards.
Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, so it's funny what you say about or interesting what you say about the messaging, because we spoke about this. We chatted last week on the phone for the first time, but about how the down to earth side is so important, particularly for your average, in inverted commas, lad. You know, a guy who maybe his pastime is playing football, and he has a few beers on the weekend, he goes out the other lads, you know, and he will go to yoga class and he'll hear Oming or Namaste and or Trikonasana, and he's like, what is this voodoo? And it will put him off and make him feel even more uncomfortable. So I think that messaging is really important, and it's good that Joe said the exact same thing. He wants to make approachable classes that allow people to feel comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of people that would be almost shocked at someone saying that, but I think you've just, to a certain degree, you've got to accept that if we want yoga to be, more people to be doing yoga and getting its benefits, then you have to almost accept that it has to become more commercialized and more accessible. That's just the way it has to be. And I would much rather people get the benefits from yoga and the amazing things that it can do for you through a more, I guess, accessible route than be given like the whole shebang and not do it. Because it is, you know, don't get me wrong, I love all the spiritual, like, chanting side and all that. Absolutely, that's a massive part of it for me. But I know that at first that I was very sort of phased by it. And I wouldn't say, luckily it didn't put me off, but it definitely made it less easy, I'd say, to slide into how it all worked. And I definitely think it had put a lot of people off. And I just think it's about taking baby steps and introducing people to it slowly. And then I think that side of it comes over time when you want to, you know, you want to learn yourself more about, you know, what yoga's all about and where it's come from and the traditions and all the alternative sides of it that aren't just the obvious, like, physical movement and meditation.
Yeah, and that's that, and I relate to that completely, because what started for me as stretching my hamstrings just for football, that was it. I was like, I'll go to yoga because I don't stretch before a match or afterwards, so therefore if this will give me a chance to stretch. And then fast forward 4 years later, I'm teaching for a living, and I love arms now. And actually, the way I say it in classes, I say an arm is a sign of unity, and it's a bit like a football chant, but you don't need to know the words.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true.
And then and I can see that, like, that it as long as people get the foot in the door, and then they can take on the spiritual side when they're ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like you say, getting the foot in the door is the absolute key, because I genuinely don't know one person that after the first class hasn't been like, holy shit, that was amazing. Because I know that's what it was like for me and so many of my family and friends. And there was a lot of resistance. You know, for example, I did sort of started practicing regularly when I was living in Morocco, and my dad came out and visited me. And for all the week I said, oh, Dad, I'm doing this yoga thing. You've got to come. And he just kept saying, oh, no, I'll just wait for you, whatever. And after like a few nights of being sat by himself between 7 and 8, eventually one day he said, all right, I'll come. And he came, and you should have seen, after the first class, you should have seen him. He just literally fell in love. And fast forward 3 years later, and he's 58 and practicing pretty much every day. So
wow.
And the same thing happened to me as well, and a lot of other people I know. They just go on.
No, sorry. I was going to say, does he go to the same studio as you?
No, my dad lives up in Yorkshire. I live in London, so.
Okay.
But we have practiced together in the past when I have been up in Yorkshire. He does sort of Ashtanga and rocket style yoga.
Blimey, rocket. Okay. He's gone hardcore. Why did you move to Morocco?
So before I started So We Flow, I had a graphic design business with a friend of mine. We started that when we left uni and moved to London, and kind of after we were obviously living this like freelance life. We had loads of free time to do what we wanted to do, and after a few years, we started. We'd meet at a set time. I'd start to sort of feel guilty if I wanted to go off and do something else in the day, and it basically became a 9-to-5 job, but self-induced. And one day it kind of hit a bit of a climax, and there was a lot of tension between us, and we just said, this is ridiculous. Like, this isn't why we did this for ourselves. So we basically felt that we wanted to mix it up. So we tested the theory by moving the business to Amsterdam for a month, which went very well. And then we just thought, so where's next? So the things we wanted to do, we wanted brand new culture. We wanted a similar time zone to the UK to work with clients like normally. So surf and sun, hopefully. And basically Morocco ticked all those boxes, and it was a complete leap into the unknown culturally. So we basically went and lived in this surfing village called Tagazout, which you might have heard of. It's like on the southwest coast, kind of like getting on towards like the Sahara Desert direction.
Oh wow, okay.
And it's just a tiny village with just like a few surf hostels and all that sort of thing. And we just ran the business from there for quite a long time.
And then when did you come back to when did you move to London? Well, you went to college. Where did you go to college?
College or university?
Oh, sorry, they call it college here. University.
Yeah, so university I went to Leeds.
Okay.
I'm from Huddersfield, which is quite nearby there.
Yeah.
And then that graduated in 2012, I think, or 11. And then pretty much moved straight to London, basically without any job or anything. And the guy that I started the graphic design business with, he was living up in Edinburgh, and we were basically just doing work for bars up there, and I was just doing it remotely from down here. And then he eventually came to London, and that's how it all sort of started. So I've been in London on and off for like 6 years now.
Okay. And then what I'm interested in is when you look at your website, you see so you say, oh, okay, this is a British-based design company, and then you order your thing and your product, and the product comes to the house. But what I'm interested in, and I have no clue about this area, what's the actual process from when you deciding to design something to actually when it gets shipped?
What
kind of a from a high level view, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
Wait, what? Sorry, product for the product.
So
we flow.
Yeah. So say for example, who you design it, but who makes it? Where does it get manufactured? And
right, okay,
that kind of stuff.
So at first, I when I started it, I had no idea about clothing design or anything like that. I knew what I liked, and I knew how to draw from doing graphic design and running a design agency, and I knew how to brand stuff up. So I kind of built the brand and put loads of ideas together for products. And then I met up with a friend that worked for a rather large British men's, and women's brand, sort of workwear style. Went for a pint with him and just told him what I wanted to do. And I actually propositioned him. I said, let's do this together. And he basically said, look, I'll give you anything you want. I'll help you with everything. But I don't want to be part of it. I'd rather just help you, which was like an amazing thing for him to do. So he basically put me in touch with a clothing designer, and we met up and went over sort of the ideas I had, and he translated them into basically fashion language, I suppose. And then the original guy put me in touch with some factories, and I spoke to them and basically decided on one. And from there, you just basically send that to the factory, and then they help you put it together, and you prototype it many times until you get it right. And that's basically how it works. And now I'm doing that whole process myself, rather than using someone, as I've learned along the way. But everything's made in a factory in Portugal, which I actually went to a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So there's one factory for the jersey stuff and one for the woven fabrics. In normal language, that's like t-shirt would be jersey and like chinos would be woven. So it could be the same material, but different factories because it requires different machines.
Yeah. And then do you package the products yourself? And
so for the first 8 months, I literally did everything. So I'd get an order, I would then go to the warehouse, get the item, wrap it all up neatly, like put all the things in with it, and literally take it to the post office. I did that for about 8 months. And then more recently, I actually hired my mother to do it.
Okay.
Because, my friend said to me, she was saying, I'm thinking about getting a job, like a part-time job.
Your mother said this?
Yeah, my mother said this. And she loves like putting things together and making them look nice and stuff. And then I was saying, I was at the pub with one of my mates, and he was like, well, Jake, mums fold best. And I thought, you're right. So then I just said, do you want to do this? And she was absolutely overjoyed to be part of it, really.
Okay, that's funny.
So
yeah, why not? That's brilliant.
Yeah, so we've got Bridget Wood on fulfilment. And then, so now she does everything, and she probably wraps everything better than me anyway. Yeah. And then we get a lot of responses with the packaging, and people saying how nicely put together it is and stuff. So I think that makes her day every time someone does that.
That's class, man. That's really cool. And what's your? Do you know what your geo split is in terms of where most of your sales come from? I imagine it's the UK, but have you analysed that at all? Yeah, so
it's mainly kind of like westernized countries, kind of like the UK, United States, Australia, a few countries in Europe, but mainly the UK. And I think that's just to do with shipping costs, really. I mean, it's the shipping's a big sort of. Yeah, it's not an ideal thing, really. I mean, I don't even know for the life of me how big companies afford to do free shipping on orders, especially ones that do free returns as well, because it really is quite a ball breaker. And to the US, outside the European Union, shipping's like around 20 quid, and that's genuinely not. I'm not making any money on that. Like that's genuinely what it is. Yeah. And a lot of people. Occasionally I'll get emails, people being like, "Oh, why are you charging this? You shouldn't be making money on shipping," and it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
Like I would love to do free shipping if I could, and hopefully when we scale, I will.
Sometimes you see these companies, like you said, free shipping, free returns, but I'm not sure you can access this information. But do you know if they're making a profit? I mean, I don't know. Is there a way to check that?
What, just generally as a business?
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming they are, because the ones I'm thinking of are quite Goliaths in the world.
Yeah, but I wonder what kind of profit they're making, or whether they have more of a long-term plan. I don't know.
Well, the thing is as well, I mean, their margins are probably a lot better than mine, in the sense when you're making stuff out of, like in Portugal, with like organic cotton and better fabrics, and it just costs more, so... That's why people make stuff in China out of polyester, because it's super cheap.
Yeah. And the thing is, the irony there is that you buy them products like I have done, and they just look like crap after a few washes, and then you have to buy another one again, and then you end up with all that clutter.
Yeah, it's just disposable fashion, really. And don't get me wrong, there are amazing companies that do that. It's just more considered, but I think generally, I think there's a movement now towards more. I hate to say this like phrase, but sustainable fashion. Like people are looking for things that are a bit. They'd rather spend on a more expensive quality item than multiple low quality items, and they're looking at the fabric. They're looking where it's made, and I just want to sort of honour that at every stage of the process. And I'd much rather produce something that cost me a lot to make, and be proud of it, than basically just produce something cheap that I don't really feel comfortable to push.
Yeah. Well, I think what you wear to a certain degree says a lot about you. I mean, when that word sustainability, there's a huge movement for that. It's funny you say that, actually, because I've been looking into there's an eco village they've started in Ireland now. It's the first one here, and essentially it's fully sustainable, a little village down in Tipperary. And I've been saying this on Instagram the last few days that like I eventually want to move there. I'm fascinated by. I read this book called Tribe by Sebastian Younger.
Yeah, I've actually read that.
Yeah, oh man, the story, like how, if people haven't read it, it's about in a nutshell how we have evolved to live in small packs and to need each other, and sometimes have a common enemy as well. And that's why people are drawn to things like teams and certain, my neighbourhood is in south side is better than north side and stuff like this. And I've realised that and don't worry, by the way, Jay, I go off track all the time. So I've realised that as a self-employed person, the business is me. I spend a lot of time on my own. I don't think long-term that's healthy. I'm happy, things are great, but I'm interested in living in a more of a community where I know my neighbours, we grow vegetables together, and I have a jumper and I wear that jumper. I don't have to go out and constantly in this cycle of consumerism.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
So that it's definitely something that is, I think, growing. That's, as you said, sustainability, and all the better.
I think to kind of go on another curveball.
That's all good. I like curveballs, man.
But this was kind of before we started recording, but back to talking about Mysore practice, and you saying that you by yourself a lot of the time and you don't think it's healthy. Well, that's kind of a massive thing for me in that world, because I'm the same. I work off my laptop. I work by myself, and every morning going to the studio and practicing my Mysore, and then I'll basically just hang around in the studio for a couple of hours, and that's how I start my day every day. And I think for me that's been so healthy to start my day with like conversation and interaction with people for a couple of hours before I do anything else, because I've spent so many years just kind of rolling out of bed and then just sitting on my laptop, and then that could be it for the whole day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So starting a more dedicated practice like that and having that little community and that conversation and that interaction is really been quite powerful for me.
Yeah, because and I think it's a lot of people experiencing that, but it's not really talked about. I think because with technology, it's great. It makes things more convenient. I mean, take an example. You're walking down the street, you want to know where a certain road is, just check your phone, check Google Maps. Someone stops me on the street to ask me where somewhere is, I'd find it bizarre now. But that's one in human interaction that's not going to happen. And that's just only going to continue that way unless we realise that we need each other,
Yeah,
We've gone deep.
Yeah. Well, I think it's crazy because, and you'll be the same, I probably interact digitally with maybe 500 people a day, if not more. If you're counting Instagram, probably thousands, but just through emails and phone calls and texts and everything. And then in terms of real life, it's just not even comparable, and it's just crazy because it gives you a sense of interaction, but I don't think you actually get the same benefits from it So it makes you feel, it almost feels like you've done it, but you actually haven't. It's weird.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's like an artificial sweetener.
Yeah, but I think it's just important to be conscious of this, and then, but that's the beauty of things like yoga, because it gets you. Some people, it's there, and I realize sometimes in class, I'm like, maybe this is the first time today this person on their mat has actually like kind of been around other people, or like, especially if someone like, I have older people that come to my class at certain times of the day, and I make sure that when they come in the door, I'm standing at the door. I'm not on my phone going through my playlist. I'm standing at the door. I say hello to them. I try and remember all their names, because everyone knows my name, because there's only one of me. There's only one teacher, and I notice that makes a difference, man. People give you feedback, because we have these little feedback forms, and they'll say, "Oh, well, I loved it when like Kevin just put a blanket on me," and it sounds so weird, but yeah.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I think it's so important to feel welcomed, especially for people that haven't been before. I mean, even, for example, when I started practicing in Shoreditch, and I've practiced in so many studios over the years, I felt, I wouldn't say, I guess slightly apprehensive about going into a new studio. I think, especially, like you say, everyone's just quiet, sat there, and it's kind of, I think having someone to welcome you and show a bit of sort of human interaction is a really great thing for a yoga studio to give you.
Yeah, and it's taken me a while to cultivate that though, because at the start I didn't really have the confidence, and then you're so busy trying to think of other things, like where people are sitting and all this kind of stuff, but that's so important. People, and I've kind of moving away from the physical side of things now, which I think is quite a common evolution, and more so trying to thread in more philosophy and more more kind of saying to people, look, don't worry if you can't keep up. The fact that you came here is really good, and just trying to be a bit more understanding, and I suppose a bit more human, not just be the person at the top of the class that's like, okay, everyone copy me.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the reason people come to a yoga class as well. There is obviously, some people do come for a physical thing, and that's great. If that's what you want out of it, that's fine. But I do think a lot of people come for, it's almost a feeling of like self-care and looking after yourself, and I think the teacher can facilitate that by the way that they act in their class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for you, let's say like for you, okay, so I have my little company, Kevin Boyle Yoga, and I suppose I am, for want of a better word, my own brand. But for you, the Instagram is brilliant, as you said, it's done great things for you. But what other ways have you, or are you thinking about, like, promoting your business or connecting with people? Is it? I mean, the podcast is one, and I think podcasting is phenomenal, because you really get a sense of the person, and it moves away from the visual side. The visuals is had Instagram for the visual side, podcasting for the more, I suppose, personal side, or whatever. But yeah, is there any other ways that you or avenues you use to promote?
Yeah, well, so the last year, it's been basically running a year this month. And the last year has very much been about sort of getting everything into place, getting all the gears and cogs like oiled and turning properly. So now it's kind of, my focus is much more on sort of real world activities, and that's the reason I kind of started it. Clothing's one thing, but my main goal is to make it easier for men to do yoga or to be involved in movement, whatever that is, whether it's climbing, calisthenics, you name it, whatever. And so I'm very much focusing now on trying to run workshops with all sorts of different movers that I've met. So, I met, there's got quite a few with a yoga teacher. I've got one this weekend with a guy called Sam, who's doing one called Unlocking the Warrior, which is, it's in Leeds. Okay. And that's basically about men opening up through their practice and sort of dropping the inhibitions that they have about yoga, and basically totally surrendering to whatever happens within that workshop. And then I've also got some coming up with some climbers, some animal movement specialists, a guy who trains the British climbing team, and then potentially a capoeira dancer, and a guy that's going to teach people some arm balancing, handstands, like vinyasa jump backs, literally really focused workshops, and basically just trying to get it out there as much as possible and make it super accessible and not exclusive in any way and 100% inclusive. And that's kind of my main focus at the moment, just doing that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think workshops are so good because people get to be with other people who are there for the same reason, and but I think like Instagram's a great way to kind of get that started and to promote anyway. In terms of like sponsorships and other types of so they're the avenues, but what about how you promote it? So you have your thing now with ice water yoga. Are you going to do you do paid adverts? Do you do other sponsorships, or do you have anything else like that lined up? Well, maybe it's confidential. I don't know.
No, I'll tell anyone anything they want to know. Well, I guess like Facebook advertising's the number one marketing channel if you know what you're doing, because it's the best way to get new eyes to your product. Because I think, when you spend so much time around your brand, you just kind of assume that everyone knows about it, and the truth is that probably only a very small amount of people have actually ever seen it. And I know there's been obviously a lot of controversy with Facebook and people's data and stuff recently, but I mean, the stuff that you use the advertising for it's not like you're aiming it at John Smith from Wales. It's not you don't actually know anything personal. It's more just like demographic data, and you can then find people that could potentially benefit from like what you're providing. And that's kind of the main thing that I use. I mean, there's obviously like email but mainly Instagram. I'm not going to lie, it's been pretty profound for me. I think just making sure that you have quality content, it's key really. And blogging as well. Blogging's massive. It's definitely got a lot bigger for me recently as the readership's got larger. And just sticking with that sort of no nonsense, direct, honest approach, I think people are really resonating with, and it's quite refreshing, especially when there's so much fluffy stuff in the yoga world, especially on blogs and stuff.
Yeah, I like the way you do profiles of men as well, which is really cool because you see different characters and they have different backgrounds, different skin colours, different demographics. So I think that works really well. And obviously blogging is really good for SEO as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about SEO really. It's just that's the thing. Choosing which avenues to sort of spend money on to expand is very difficult, and knowing which is the best route to go down. I mean, there's only so much you can do yourself without doing everything a little bit shit, and I think it's kind of trying to work out where your time is best spent and knowing when it's worth using someone with expertise in that area rather than trying just to do it all yourself.
And with that in mind, do you use a photographer?
Yes, absolutely.
Your photographs are amazing.
Yeah, so I've got like 5 photographers that are kind of my go-to, and I do some myself as well. In fact, I'm really interested in getting more into photography. I'm actually doing a course at the moment. Just like you said about Instagram got you into it, and it was kind of the same for me. I just thought I want to be involved with this, and because I'm always there with all these people, it would seem crazy that I didn't have at least a good capability of capturing those moments.
Yeah, because you can actually do a lot. Like someone asked me this week, who takes your photographs? As I do, I basically like, it's a bit of a rigmarole, but I set a self-timer and running. If you actually seen the behind the scenes of me taking a picture, it's pretty ridiculous. I nearly broke up my neck trying to do like handstands on a ledge and this kind of thing. But you can do a lot if you just know how to some basic photography, and a picture goes a long way. I think that's what's really striking about your Instagram is is the how nice the photographs are.
Yeah,
And, it's a brilliant art form. I think it's fascinating.
I think the thing that makes our shoots quite unique in a way is that we never really go out there with like as a planned shoot. It's kind of more we organise a trip for, say, the last shoot we did was with a photographer called John Hersher who lives in Cornwall, and we all just, few of my mates and me, went down, got the train, stayed there for the whole weekend, and literally John was just walking around with his camera and we were just messing around basically, and that's like basically the backbone of all the shoots I do. They just play, and we just capture those moments. So it's never like, oh, we need to get this like this, or oh, we need to get that tea. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I come back and I'm like, oh, I wish we'd got more shots of that product, but you wouldn't have got the genuine you wouldn't have captured those genuine moments if you were doing that all the time. So I'd much rather go out on the kind of like free, fun, playful approach, and I think that's how you get those sort of images.
Yeah, and I think, but actually regarding your products, all the stuff you have at the moment is all, you know, essential gear. Is you have the mat, you have the trousers, you have the shorts. What do you have, shorts?
Yeah, we have shorts.
Yeah, and t-shirts. Are you looking to expand your product range, like doing things like I'm due to get a delivery for a watch today? Are you doing anything else in terms of accessories?
Not watch-wise.
Fair enough. I've already got mine now. It's in the post. But,
yeah.
Anything else? Like
yeah. So there's going to be quite a lot of changes coming soon. I think we're going to do some outerwear pieces, some sweaters, jackets, and also refine some of the products that we currently have based on sort of what we've learnt over this year. I think, you know, when you start a business, there's only so much you can do before you actually just go out and do it. And then you what you learn in that year from the data and the information you get from people that have bought your products and interacted with them is absolutely invaluable. So this year is definitely about taking all that information and learning from it. So there's definitely some changes that are going to be made. And then also, yeah, like you say, like there is going to be some kind of accessories. I've been sort of hinting on Instagram about a few aromatherapy products that I'm going to be releasing with the same the same sort of no bullshit approach, like make it a bit more accessible, because I think stuff like essential oils and all that sort of thing are seen as either very feminine or a bit like hippie, but they're actually incredible things, and even if all else fails, they smell great. So
exactly.
Do you know what I mean? But I use essential oils before my practice every time. I find it gives me an amazing, it can just put you in the right place, like certain essential oils. So you might have a set that works well for, you know, stimulation, that's not having your morning coffee or whatever else, and then certain ones that are amazing for relaxation, and they really do put you in an amazing place.
Yeah. I mean, when I do my yoga, so I have a separate yoga in my house that I put on. I have sandalwood, and then when I go to bed, I have lavender. And like, I find that smell is, I think of all the senses, I believe smell is like the most powerful in terms of triggering emotions. And when I smell the lavender, I'm like, cool, now it's time to relax. And you know, it puts me, it makes a massive difference. With all of this gear, all of these, I mean, if you were to, you know, be stocking all these bottles, I mean, I know they're only small, but if you had a lot of them, have you thought about a physical shop, or is it how far is that away, would you say?
There has been discussions of it, and the way I would do it would be to collaborate with other businesses as well to make it a bit less of a risky venture, because obviously getting a shop in London is really quite it's a big step, but the thing also is I'd rather do it as a kind of cooperative space, because I think everyone helping each other and giving the customer a better experience by, you know, there's coffee, there's food, there's a yoga studio, there's clothing, and I think you're doing something better for your customer by providing that as well, and providing a space for them to be in, rather than just going like, this is it. I think it's riskier for the business, and I think it's a weaker experience for the customer, and for me, but I'm not sure, you know, it could be coming maybe next year.
Yeah, collaborate. That makes so much sense because you go to a yoga class and if you see they've got clothing there, you may think, oh, do you know what? Those shorts weren't too comfortable, and they're more likely you're. That's when the need is at its highest when you're actually there at yoga, or
Yeah, absolutely.
you're not rushed in some big shopping center. You can have a coffee and sit chat about it. And I mean, because I, like a lot of men, I'm sure, don't like shopping, but if the clothing happens to be there and I have other things I can do in that environment, I feel I'm more comfortable making a purchase.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We talked about like your geographical split. Have you? How's Ireland for a market for you?
I've had a few orders from Ireland, but I wouldn't say any massive interest. I think most of it does come from the big cities in the UK, like Manchester and London, but not much from Ireland, to be honest. Would you expect it?
Would that? Yeah, I mean, yoga's growing here massively. So yeah, I mean, they've got, and the wellness industry is huge. So yeah, I would expect it. It's only a matter of time for it comes though. Have you visited Ireland?
I haven't actually, no.
Oh right, okay.
It's crazy. Honestly, I've done so much travelling over my life, and I just can't believe I've never been to Ireland. It's one of those classic things, isn't it? Just
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought you might have at least been on a stag do or something here, like a lad's weekend. But
no, I'm a bit
no.
young for the stag do's, to be honest.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. All right. No worries.
They're starting to flow in potentially soon, but not yet. They haven't quite kicked off.
All right. Yeah. So actually, the last thing I wanted to say to you, and this is a bit of a cheesy question, because I was going to say when you're going to visit Dublin, but
Whenever you invite me.
fair enough. But yeah, as you said, you are quite young, and you only graduated in 2012. So, and it's just yourself in the business. But the great thing about these days and the internet is all you need is an internet connection and want to do something badly enough. That's what people need to realise. So this is a kind of Oprah Winfrey type question. I've been listening to Super Soul Sundays lately, so I'm feeling a bit inspired. So I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give yourself if you met yourself 5 years ago?
What advice would I give? There'd be a few things that I'd say.
But relating to business.
Relating to business, yeah. I'm glad you stuck it in that category. But to be honest, I'd tell myself to just believe in yourself more. I mean, when you start your own business, I think there's just constantly so much self-doubt and putting yourself down. And at the end of the day, there's not really that many, it can't go that badly. And yeah, so I'd just say, just believe in yourself. Like, I know that's quite like a stereotypical phrase, but I just think you'd benefit. There's so much time and emotional energy wasted on doubt and lack of confidence and thinking, oh, is this going to work? Like, and feeling down about it, and it just gets you, that kind of thinking just doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't achieve anything. I think the sooner you can brush that off, the better, really.
Yeah. No, I think that's massively important. Particularly if you're working on your own, you don't have someone else to say, go on, go for it, or to give you some feedback. So yeah, it's the same with me when I started a podcast. A couple of people asked me why. I don't, do you make money from it? I said, no, I just like doing it. And I think if you do something like that you really like, in a matter of time, value will come your way, and obviously, hopefully, that value comes in financial terms. Yeah, again, that sounds very cliche as well, but these things are cliche because they're true.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the answer to why is why not, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think I never saw this as a monetary thing. It's definitely more of a lifestyle thing. And some people, you do get the occasional person that's kind of like, oh, it's yoga, it needs to be pure. Like, why have you got a business around yoga? And I just say, look, I'm having a good time. Like, that's all it is. And it's fun, and it's just making the most of what you can do by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jake, if people want to know more about you and So We Flow, where would they go?
So you can check us out on Instagram, obviously, because it's the best. So We Flow, and also our website at soweflow.com. and everything's on there, all the blog, all the products, like standard, good website.
Yeah, it's nice, man. Well, yeah, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem. It's been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that. Told you it went deep, talking about eco farms. Next week, I have none other than Mr. Patrick Beach. Yep. On the podcast. I was lucky enough to go to a weekend of his workshops and then spend some time with him after that. We went for lunch and went for dinner, and we had a good old chat again. It was done in my car. That's the new location now, a remote location, doing the podcast in the car. So yeah, Patrick Beach is next. Tune in for that. Again, it will be out Thursdays. Check out my Instagram for updates, or if you're on my newsletter, you can sign up through my website, and then you get the podcast episode sent to you, which is good. As always, if you enjoy, please rate. Hope you have a powerful week, a nice weekend, and catch up with you next week.